They look ordinary at first glance. Just pocket change. But hidden among the millions of Jefferson nickels minted over the decades are a few extraordinary specimens worth thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, of dollars. I'm talking about the 1984, 1995, and 2005 nickels that most Americans have handled without a second thought. Today, we're diving deep into these overlooked treasures that might be sitting in your coin jar right now. Let's start with the 1984 Jefferson nickel, a coin that represents one of the most fascinating minting errors of the modern era. The year 1984 was fairly unremarkable for the U.S. Mint. Nearly 750 million nickels were produced at the Philadelphia and Denver facilities combined. But among these hundreds of millions of coins, a tiny fraction emerged with a doubling error that transformed an ordinary 5-cent piece into a collector's dream. The 1984 double-die Jefferson nickel features noticeable doubling on the obverse, particularly visible in Jefferson's profile, the word Liberty, and the date. This doubling occurred during the die-making process, when the hub struck the working die more than once but at slightly different angles. Think of it as a printer that prints the same image twice, but slightly offset. The result is a coin where certain elements appear to have a shadow or ghost image. What makes the 1984 double die so special is the clarity of this doubling. Many double dies show only subtle shifts that require magnification to detect. But on the finest examples of the 1984 error, the doubling is visible to the naked eye, particularly around Jefferson's eye, ear, and the lettering of Liberty and In God We Trust. It's this prominence that elevates it above many other double die errors. The history of how this error was discovered adds another layer of intrigue. Unlike some famous coin errors that were identified immediately, the 1984 double die remained largely unnoticed for years. It wasn't until the late 1980s that serious collectors began to recognize and document this variety. By then, most examples had already entered circulation, been spent, or disappeared into random coin jars across America. If you're examining your own coins, you'll want to focus on Jefferson's profile. Use a magnifying glass to look closely at the eye, ear, and the curvature of his head. The doubling appears as a distinct second outline of these features, not just a blurry edge. The date, 1984, also shows clear doubling, particularly in the 9 and 8. Remember, we're not talking about a coin that appears blurry due to wear. This is a precise, defined second impression of certain elements. The Philadelphia Mint was responsible for the double die error, so you'll want to look for coins without a mint mark. Denver minted coins from 1984, which bear the D mint mark, don't show this particular error. But don't discard your Denver nickels just yet, they could have other valuable varieties or errors we're not discussing today. Now, what about value? This is where things get exciting for collectors and casual coin holders alike. In circulated condition, a 1984 double die nickel might bring $20 to $50, depending on the clarity of the doubling and overall condition. But in uncirculated grades, that value climbs dramatically. A Mint State MS-63 example could fetch $100 to $300, while premium examples graded MS-65 or higher have sold for $500 to $1,500 at major auctions. The most remarkable specimens, those graded MS-67 or MS-68 with full steps on Monticello, meaning the steps on the building on the reverse are clearly defined, have reached prices exceeding $3,000. A particularly exceptional example sold at a heritage auction in 2018 for $4,700, not bad for a coin with a face value of 5 cents. What's fascinating about the 1984 double die is that unlike many rare coins that were recognized immediately and preserved, most of these entered circulation. This means there are still undiscovered specimens out there, possibly in your own collection or even in your pocket change. The U.S. Mint doesn't officially track error coins, so estimates of the total number in existence range widely from a few thousand to perhaps 10,000 specimens. The condition of these coins varies tremendously, which significantly impacts value. Circulation where quickly diminishes the visibility of the doubling, making well-preserved examples particularly valuable. Professional grading is essential for serious collectors, as the difference between grades can mean thousands of dollars in value. One collector I know, Robert from Michigan, had been checking nickels for years with no luck. Then in 2019, while sorting through a bag of coins he'd accumulated from his cash register, he found a 1984 double die in remarkably good condition. After professional grading, it was certified as MS-65, and he sold it for just over $800. That's the kind of discovery that keeps the hunt exciting for all of us. There's also an interesting historical context to the 1984 nickel. This was the year the Jefferson nickel design celebrated its 46th anniversary, having replaced the Buffalo nickel in 1938. The original design by Felix Schlag remained largely unchanged until the Westward Journey series in 2004. So these era coins represent one of the last major varieties of the traditional Jefferson nickel design. Another intriguing aspect is that 1984 was a transitional period for the U.S. Mint's quality control processes. The Mint was beginning to implement more sophisticated technologies to catch errors, but the double-die nickels still managed to slip through. This makes them among the last major double-die varieties to enter widespread circulation before improved quality control made such errors increasingly rare. The 1984 double die also holds a special place in modern numismatics because it demonstrates that valuable coins aren't just ancient pieces or those made from precious metals. Modern errors can be just as valuable and historically significant. This particular error occurred during the lifetime of many current collectors, making it accessible and relatable in a way that 19th-century coins might not be. For those interested in variety collecting, the 1984 double die is often considered an essential piece. It's prominent enough to be recognized by general collectors but rare enough to maintain substantial value. It represents an excellent entry point into the specialized world of error and variety collecting, bridging the gap between mainstream collecting and more niche interests. If you think you found one, I strongly recommend having it authenticated by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. Given the value of these coins, the cost of grading is easily justified, and it provides certainty about what you have. Be cautious of machine doubling, a manufacturing anomaly that can look similar to a true double die but has much less collector value. True double dies show doubling of interior details, not just the edges of design elements. For those of you keeping your coins in albums or holders, remember that proper storage is crucial for preserving value. Avoid cleaning these coins at all costs, even if they look dirty. Cleaning damages the original surfaces and can reduce the value by 50% or more. Instead, handle them by the edges and store them in non-PVC holders designed for coin preservation. The 1984 double die nickel teaches us an important lesson: sometimes extraordinary value hides in the most ordinary places. While we often focus on gold and silver when thinking about valuable coins, this humble copper-nickel 5-cent piece proves that knowledge, attention to detail, and a bit of luck can lead to remarkable discoveries in modern coinage. Now let's move on to our third featured coin, the 2005 Jefferson Nickel, a pivotal year in the history of this denomination that produced some truly remarkable varieties. The year 2005 marked the conclusion of the Westward Journey Nickel series, a 2-year commemoration of the Lewis and Clark expedition and the Louisiana Purchase. This series represented the first significant design change to the Jefferson nickel since its introduction in 1938. What makes the 2005 nickels particularly significant is that they feature the new forward-facing portrait of Jefferson designed by Jamie Franke, replacing the traditional profile view that had been used for 67 years. This modern interpretation shows Jefferson facing forward, appearing more lifelike and three-dimensional than the previous design. It's a striking departure from tradition, and it makes the 2005 nickels immediately recognizable. But beyond this historic design change, the 2005 nickel series includes some extraordinary error coins that command impressive premiums. The most notable is the 2005 Speared Bison error. This dramatic mint error occurred on the reverse of the bison design, which was used for the first part of 2005. The error features what appears to be a spear or line running through the bison's back, the result of a die gouge that transferred to the struck coins. This error wasn't planned, of course. It occurred when a die was damaged, creating a raised line on the coins it produced. This isn't just a minor flaw, it's immediately visible and dramatically alters the appearance of the coin, making it look as though the bison has been speared. The irony of this unintentional design element appearing on a coin commemorating Native American history and the American bison hasn't been lost on collectors. Identifying a genuine speared bison error requires careful examination. The die gouge appears as a raised line extending from the bison's back downward at roughly a 45-degree angle. It's not a scratch, which would appear as a depression rather than a raised line, and it's consistent across all specimens from the affected die. This consistency is key to authentication, as it proves the error occurred during the minting process rather than through post-mint damage. In terms of market value, the 2005 speared bison error commands significant premiums. In circulated condition, these error coins typically sell for $50 to $150, depending on the clarity of the error and overall condition. Uncirculated examples can bring $200 to $500, while premium specimens graded MS-65 or higher have sold for $700 to $1,500 at major auctions. Beyond the speared bison error, 2005 also produced several other notable nickel varieties. There's the 3-1/2 legs bison variety, where part of one of the bison's legs is missing due to a filled die. There are also various double die varieties affecting both the obverse and reverse designs. While not as dramatic or valuable as the speared bison, these varieties still command premiums of $20 to $100 depending on condition. What's particularly interesting about the 2005 nickel errors is that they occurred during a year when the U.S. Mint was giving special attention to this denomination. With new designs being implemented, you might expect quality control to be heightened, yet these significant errors still made it into circulation. This speaks to the complexity of the minting process and the challenges inherent in producing billions of coins annually. I know a collector named Patricia who specializes in modern mint errors. She discovered her first speared bison nickel in a roll she purchased just weeks after the coins were released. Having studied mint errors for years, she immediately recognized the die gouge for what it was. She continued searching and eventually found 6 examples, including one in nearly perfect condition that she sold for just over $1,000 in 2018. The historical significance of the 2005 nickels extends beyond their errors and varieties. This was a transitional year for U.S. coinage in many ways. The state quarters program was in full swing, changing the reverse design of the quarter 5 times per year. The Westward Journey nickel series was concluding with the introduction of the new Jefferson portrait. And preparations were underway for the presidential $1 coin program that would launch in 2007. In many ways, 2005 represents the height of the modern commemorative era at the U.S. Mint. For collectors, the 2005 nickels offer something that most modern coins don't, the opportunity to own the first year of a new design that's still in use today. The forward-facing Jefferson portrait introduced in 2005 continues to appear on our nickels, making these first-year examples historically significant regardless of errors or varieties. When examining 2005 nickels, pay attention to strike quality as well. The new design, with its more intricate details in Jefferson's face, required adjustments to the minting process. As a result, strike quality varies widely, with some examples showing exceptional detail and others appearing somewhat flat. The best examples show sharp detail in Jefferson's hair and in the fur of the bison on the bison reverse variety. The 2005 nickels also exhibit interesting die progression characteristics. Early strikes from fresh dies show razor-sharp details, while later strikes from worn dies show less definition. This progression is normal in minting, but it's particularly noticeable on the new Jefferson design due to its increased complexity. For the dedicated collector, these die state variations add another dimension to collecting the 2005 issues. Now let's turn our attention to the 1995 Jefferson nickel, a coin with a fascinating story that's quite different from our 1984 double die. The 1995 nickel holds a special place in modern U.S. coinage because it features one of the most dramatic quality variations of any recent mint product. If you collected coins in the mid-1990s, you might remember this was a transitional era for the U.S. Mint. The facility was dealing with budget constraints, aging equipment, and increasing production demands. These challenges culminated in what many collectors now recognize as the Special Mint Set, or SMS Quality 1995 nickels, coins that weren't intended for general release but somehow made their way into circulation. Let me explain what makes these 1995 nickels so special. Standard 1995 nickels were produced in massive quantities, over 774 million from the Philadelphia Mint alone. But among these were a small number struck with special dies that created coins with much sharper details, frosted devices, the raised parts of the design, and mirror-like fields, the flat background areas. These characteristics are typically found on proof coins specially made for collectors, not on regular circulation strikes. The most distinctive feature of these special 1995 nickels is their extraordinary surface quality. Under magnification, the standard 1995 nickels show typical flow lines and die marks consistent with mass production. But the special specimens display pristine surfaces with a satin-like texture on Jefferson's portrait and Monticello. The contrast between the frosted design elements and the reflective fields creates what numismatists call cameo contrast, a feature normally reserved for proof coins. What's particularly intriguing about these coins is that they were produced using dies intended for special commemorative sets or presentation pieces, but through some oversight or deliberate testing, they ended up being used for regular production runs. The U.S. Mint has never officially acknowledged or explained how these special strikes entered circulation, adding an element of mystery to their story. When examining a potential 1995 special strike nickel, pay close attention to the steps on Monticello on the reverse. On standard strikes, these steps often appear partially defined or merged together. But on the special strikes, all 6 steps are clearly delineated with sharp, distinct edges. This full steps designation is crucial for identification and significantly impacts value. Another key identifying feature is the edge of the coin. Special strike 1995 nickels often show a squared-off edge rather than the slightly rounded edge of standard strikes. This difference results from the special preparation of the dies and the striking process used for these coins. In terms of market value, the difference between standard and special strike 1995 nickels is staggering. A regular 1995 nickel, even in uncirculated condition, is worth little more than face value, perhaps 25 to 50 cents for a nice uncirculated example. But a certified 1995 special strike can command anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 depending on the grade. The finest examples, those graded MS-67 or MS-68 with full steps, have sold for $10,000 to $15,000 at major auctions. One of the most remarkable sales occurred in 2016 when a PCGS graded MS-67 full steps example sold for $17,625 at a Stack's Bowers auction. Consider that for a moment, a 5-cent coin from 1995, a year when many of you watching were already adults, selling for more than the price of a new car. This extraordinary value is driven by both rarity and condition, as fewer than 1,000 special strikes are estimated to exist, and only a tiny fraction of those achieve the highest grades. What makes the story of the 1995 special strike nickels particularly compelling is that they represent a modern numismatic mystery. Unlike many valuable coins that are the result of documented errors or intentional limited mintages, these coins exist in a gray area of U.S. mint production. Some numismatists believe they were test strikes for a special set that was never released. Others suggest they might have been created for presentation purposes but then mistakenly mixed with regular production coins. I've heard fascinating stories from collectors who discovered these treasures. James, a collector from California, purchased a roll of 1995 nickels from his bank in 2005, simply looking for any interesting varieties. When he unwrapped the roll, one coin immediately stood out for its unusual luster. After having it professionally graded, it was confirmed as a special strike and eventually sold for $3,800. It had been sitting in a bankroll for a decade, passing through countless hands before someone with the knowledge to recognize its significance came along. The condition variation in these coins is critical to understand. While a regular 1995 nickel in MS-65 might be worth $2 to $3, a special strike with the same numerical grade could be worth over $1,000. Add the full steps designation, and that value could triple or quadruple. This dramatic price difference underscores why it's essential to have potentially valuable specimens professionally authenticated and graded. There's also an interesting historical context surrounding the 1995 nickel. This was the period when the U.S. Mint was preparing to launch the 50-state quarters program, which would revolutionize coin collecting in America. Resources were being redirected toward planning this massive undertaking, which may have contributed to the quality control oversights that allowed these special strikes to enter circulation. For those building Jefferson nickel collections, the 1995 special strike represents one of the most challenging modern issues to acquire. Unlike the war nickels of the 1940s or the 1950s, the key date of the series, the 1995 special strike isn't recognized by its date and mint mark alone. It requires a trained eye and usually professional certification to confirm its status. If you think you might have one of these special 1995 nickels, look for these key identifiers: exceptional detail in Jefferson's hair and Monticello's architectural features, clear separation of all 6 steps on Monticello, mirror-like fields around the devices, and a squared-off edge. Under good lighting, the special strikes will show a distinctly different luster compared to regular issues, more reflective and brilliant, almost proof-like in appearance. What's particularly exciting for collectors is that these coins could still be found in circulation or in bank rolls. Unlike many valuable coins that were recognized immediately and removed from circulation, the 1995 special strike nickels weren't widely known until years after their release. This means there's still the possibility, however remote, of finding one in your change or in a roll of nickels from the bank. The 1995 special strike nickel reminds us that expertise and knowledge often create value where others see none. Millions of people handle these nickels without realizing their significance, but for the informed collector, they represent a modern treasure hiding in plain sight. This is the essence of what makes coin collecting so fascinating: the intersection of history, artistry, and the thrill of the hunt.